Number one is your activities that lead to you setting appointments. Number two is your appointment conductions. Number three is contract negotiations. So I'm going to make sure that 80% of my time is every single day is allocated to those three activities, right? And then from there, the other 20% is going to be divvied up between client nurture, paperwork, building out my systems, right? All of that stuff. So at every phase, you have to identify, okay, what is the highest and best use of my time? Right? How you identify highest and best uses, like if you were to break down your highest, let's just say, hour activities or per minute activities, right? It's like we all do things that could be worth $1,000 an hour inside our business, right? So what are those highest dollar producing activities for you with where you're at?
Welcome back to Echo Interviews, and thank you so much for joining us this season. It has been an absolute blast. This is our season finale, and the mega guest that we have for you today to wrap this season up is Joshua Smith. Joshua Smith is a top 1% realtor worldwide, has sold over 5,000 homes, and is founder of the incredibly successful podcast GSD Mode, along with being awarded the 30 Under 30 award. Joshua goes all in this episode to provide massive value for you to take your business to the elite level. Let's begin. Welcome back to Echo Interviews. Today we have a very special guest for you. Today we have the one and only Joshua Smith. You may have heard of him from his incredibly successful podcast, GSD Mode, or from being a top 1% realtor worldwide, along with being a leading coach and entrepreneur in the real estate space. Joshua, welcome, and thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute honor. Appreciate you having me on, man. This will be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, let's just jump right into it. Joshua, tell us a little bit about yourself, the industry that you're in, and how you got started.
Yes, so I'm really all things real estate. I've got my real estate team out here in Phoenix, Arizona that I've been running and operating since 2006. I first jumped into the business in 2005. Didn't plan on being here. Thought real estate would just be a stepping stone. I came from the health club industry prior to that, and my goal was to just jump into real estate and raise the capital for a down payment and go back into the health club industry. I wanted to open up my own health club, and through that journey, I always say that health clubs and the health fitness industry is my passion. Real estate became my obsession, and jumped in 2005. New independent individual agent, just like everybody else. And I had some early success, started my team in 2006, and I've been cranking ever since. And that's evolved into now having the real estate team. I just did a partnership JV on a brokerage, so launching the brokerage side of things. And then I mentor and coach several thousand agents a year through my coaching programs. I've got a software company that helps real estate agents. So again, all things real estate, dude.
I don't know where to begin, so we're just going to try to tackle it one piece at a time. So you mentioned that there's some initial success, and rightly so. You're certainly an achiever and somebody that gets things done. How long were you a solo agent? For about a year? Is that right?
Yeah. I ended up selling 48 homes my first year, and in 2005, you gotta think, for those that can't remember back that far, weren't in the industry at that time. There was no smartphones, there was no DocuSign. We weren't even really using scanners. So to close 4 deals a month at that time was kind of the equivalent of like 8 to 10 today. So I wanted to double my production the following year, but I couldn't fathom how to even add an extra deal to the pipeline, without delegating out some of these tasks. And again, coming from the industry, I was blessed, man. I had a lot of experience in the health club industry. My father owned and operated gyms for 30 years. So I was able to see, how businesses operated. So I've always had the lens and looked at this as the lens of an entrepreneur, the lens of a business owner. I've never seen myself as a realtor. It's just like it, I'm a business owner that happens to be in the real estate industry, the real estate niche, and it just so happens that I have to have my real estate license to do this. So from day one, I knew I wanted to create a successful business. So hired my first assistant right into my second full year, and just kept expanding and growing from there.
Awesome. So did you have any, let's say, I don't want to call it managerial skills, but as far as bringing people on, introducing them to your systems, did you have any experience prior, or what was that like when you were introducing that person that was helping you out, and then some additional teams? How did you acquire that skill set if you didn't have it?
Yeah, man. No, I sucked at it in the beginning. I thought I had it just from being in the industry I was before. But, essentially in the health club business, or like any business, we're just executing on the systems and processes that entrepreneur created. And so I was overly confident, I guess you could say, in my abilities. And I was shitty at it. It was a very tough lesson. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn was that my ability of being a great realtor had nothing to do with my ability of being a great team leader, right? It's a totally different skill set. So, over the years, really just through overcoming my own pains and struggles, because all sounds good, right? When you see the awards or hear the accolades, it all sounds good and sexy, but man, it's filled with ups and downs. And I've been through so many shitstorms in my own business and career and journey. But through it, yeah, if you look at like what am I obsessed with today? What's my superpower, if you will? It's systems and processes, right? And I've just found, though, that systems and processes trump talent and everything else. But I had to learn it the hard way for sure.
Okay. Well, speaking of hard ways, I like speaking with people that are pre the crash, because it that makes for, I guess, good conversation. So I'm curious, how did the crash impact your business and you personally?
Yeah, one of the things, and again, call it luck, call it whatever you want to call it, but when the market crashed, I got in when the market was 2005 was like the biggest boom we'd ever experienced, at least in my marketplace. So I got in when things were just taking off, and that followed very quickly by the biggest real estate market crash that, at least in my area, that we'd ever seen. Phoenix, Arizona there are certain areas that values went down like 85%. But jumping into the industry early on, and I was young, I was 23 years old, right? So I didn't have any bad or negative habits. It was kind of like every single day walking in the office with a blank sheet of paper and trying to reinvent ourselves, or myself. And so I was able to adapt and shift very effectively into it. And it happened on accident, to be honest with you. It was, I was doing a lot of expireds and stumbled across my first short sale. Right? But going after expireds, a lot of them couldn't sell because of price. Well, then they couldn't price their home where they needed to because there wasn't enough equity. So expireds very quickly led to short sales, and then jumped into the REO game. Here's what I discovered through all of it, right? Is if you take the time, and we talked about this off air a little bit, but take the time to truly master your craft and go pro. If you want to get to that next level, like, you got to treat your business and you got to treat your career as a true professional, right? So think of anybody that goes at the pro level in sports or whatever, they're obsessed with mastering their craft. And when you take it to that level of mastering your business and the different elements of your business, and one of the most important things to master, especially in real estate, is marketing strategy. And marketing strategy doesn't change, but whom you market to changes, right? So I can take any niche out there, whether it be for sale by owners, expires, going after attorneys, right, builders, or short sales, or REO asset managers, hedge funds. It's all the same process. So once you truly understand and mastered marketing strategy, then the only question becomes, like, whom is the market good for? There is no such thing as a good or bad market. The market is always good for somebody, right? So like right now, the time frame that we're experiencing, most of us have been in these extreme seller markets, right? Well, for buyer clients, it sucks right now. For certain investor clients, it sucks right now. It's good for home sellers, and that's what the media and everybody portrays as a good, strong market. Only when equity, home prices are going up and there's a shortage. Well, that's only good for home sellers, right? So don't ever allow yourself to get to the mindset of, oh, the market's not doing good or the market's bad. It's always good for somebody. So your job then as a real estate entrepreneur is to ask yourself and identify, whom is the market good for? Who can capitalize on what's going on in the marketplace, who are the best clients, right? And then just pivot your marketing strategy to them. And so we went from being one of the top teams in the country before the market crashed to becoming one of the top REO and short sale teams in the country. And then working when it's like, all right, market's going up, and this seems to always follow an intense seller's market, but a decline, right, followed by then incorporation of short sales. And you see REOs when that bottoms out. That's where a lot of your smart money comes in. So your big institutional buyers, your hedge funds, like Blackstone, right? So is traditional buyers, sellers, right? Then a lot of short sales, a lot of REO, still working with some traditional. That bottomed out. Then we pivoted to our investor clients and hedge fund clients, right? Then repivoted back to traditional. And the cool thing is, you guys, is markets never shift on a dime. They only appear to shift fast or shift on a dime when we're not paying attention. But if you're paying attention, these shifts take a year, if not years, to go. So just study what the inventory rates were in your market over the last 20 years or so, as far back data that you can go, and see at what point you started to see these things introduced. Well, then if let's just say your inventory is declining by a quarter of 0.25% a month or whatever, well, hey man, I can start prepping a year ahead of time or 6 months ahead of time for short sales and REO, right, and vice versa.
That's golden. That is perfect. I'm running out of ink, so I'm going to need to get another pen. But as you were mentioning, pay attention. Very important. Paying attention, adjusting. You mentioned a lot of examples there where you are paying attention, shifting, and adapting. It's good for somebody. Yeah, there's going to be there's that bad economy or good economy. That's an easy boogeyman to point to, but somebody out there is being successful every single day. So can you identify what that is and then put yourself in that place? So that's awesome. As far as paying attention, you mentioned the inventory levels. Is that the leading indicator in your mind, or is there somewhere else that you would like to look?
Yeah, for sure. Right. Inventory rates. And again, I don't want to say there's an across the board, model for every single market. It does differ. One thing with real estate, it can be so hyper local with how it works. But for, let's just say 90% of the country, right, anything below 4 months of inventory, let's just call it 3 months of inventory or less, is going to be a seller's market. And you get below 3 months, it starts to, 2 months, and in 1 month it becomes extreme, right? Now the media will say a 6 months of inventory is a healthy market, right? Like it's a neutral, healthy market. But the reality of it is, it's not like it just stands still, right? It's always fluctuating. So by the time the media reports it, it's far beyond whatever they're reporting. They're always months and months and months behind, if not further, right? So I look at a neutral market, more of that 4 to 6 month marketplace. So let's just call it 4 and 5 months. Right. Once we get beyond 5 months, that's where we're entering a buyer's market. Once we get that 6 to 7 months, we start seeing short sales. 7 to 8 months, you start seeing REO. So, it's something that I'm paying attention to and studying, along with other just things that are taking place. Right. You got to pay attention to other economic factors. Like before, for example, we knew that the real estate market was going to be in trouble, which is the way that they were loosely doing loans, right? The next recession that we hit, I don't know. We'll see how real estate will be affected, right? Loans are done extremely solid today. There's a massive rooftop shortage globally, but nationwide for us, where we're underbuilt over 1 million homes every single year. So it takes like 30 years for us to catch up to keep up with the birth rate, right? So there's other factors you got to pay attention to. And I'm not trying to have a crystal ball, and I don't sit there and obsess over it, think about it, right? Change is inevitable. I'll pivot and shift and adapt as it's taking place, But inventory rates, if you look at like a KPI or lead indicator, for sure, for me, that is what I'm paying most attention to.
Okay. That makes sense. Thanks for enlightening us on that. As far as, the audience, there's a lot of high achievers out there, and there's a lot of great agents out there. There's a lot of great real estate professionals, and many of them are trying to get to that elite level. And you, having worked with so many different agents,
Can you share a little bit on what is most common between those people that are great, and what's that one switch that they make in their business or in themselves to get to that elite level? Because again, you are a top agent, not just in your state, not just in the country, but worldwide. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's tough, right? Because we're all driven by other things. But I'll try to break it down tactically the best that I can, so you guys can implement and get as much out of this as you possibly can. But number one, man, I mean, you gotta tap into that internal drive. Right? I mean, those that create massive success, the super achievers. I mean, it boils down to like the fear of not accomplishing their dreams, goals, and visions is like the greatest fear that exists, right? It far exceeds going broke or far exceeds not succeeding. Like the worst thing that could ever happen is to get to the end of this world and know that you fell short and didn't do everything you could to operate at your full potential, right? So you got to tap into that drive. And you hear these cliches that 90% of success is controlling your mind. And I mean, it's so true, right? You've got to tap into what truly drives you, what your conviction is, why you're doing what you're doing, and truly want it, right? Because to put in the blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice to create a truly successful business and become a super achiever at anything that you do, man, you've got to be obsessed with it. You've got to truly want it, and you got to be willing to devote all your time, energy, attention, to it. Not saying that you can't still go out there and spend great time with your family and do the other things important to you, right? But you got to get very clear on what those things of highest importance to you are. It's like, look, dude, you can't do it all out there. There's just too much shit to do in this lifetime. So you gotta identify what the most important things are to you, right? So like for me, I know the most important people to me. I'm very clear on who the most important people to me in my world are. Right. I'm very, very clear on the importance of my health. I'm very clear on my goals and why I want to accomplish those goals inside my business and why they matter to me. Right. So then it allows me to be very, very clear, like crystal clear on what it is that I want to accomplish. So then I can just shut out everything else. Yeah, right. Because especially today, man, the distractions are insane. I mean, you've got these multi-billion-dollar companies that their whole entire job is to distract you, social media and all this other stuff. Right. You've got to become brilliant and effective at saying no to the noise, right? And shutting out the noise. 95% of all the bullshit that happens to any of us in our day-to-day lives is just noise. You got to be very clear and be able to identify what's the 5% of true significance so I can shut out the other 95% and put all your time, energy, attention, focus, and everything you have into that 5%, right? So I'd say that's step number one. Then step number two is you got to fully commit to creating what it is that you want to create, right? And the difference between committed and interested is commitment is I'm going to do whatever it takes regardless of my mental state, whether I'm motivated or not. There's this huge myth out there that super achievers love doing the things that, successful people love doing the things that unsuccessful people don't. No, dude, like we all hate doing the same shit. It's boring. It's mundane. It's tedious. I don't wake up in the morning like just excited to go tear it up, right? Like I wake up and I'm pissed off that I got to get out of bed and do any of it, right? Like I want to just go back to bed, right? But I get up and get moving anyway. I don't let my emotions and my mental state dictate the actions that I'm going to do, right? So you got to be truly committed to do it. Then from there, and this is something we already talked about, but if you're going to commit to going pro and you can't become extremely successful and become a super achiever without becoming pro, right? So you got to approach it like a pro, treat it as a pro. You got to run your business as a business. And, it used to be, and I'll just speak specific to real estate here. It used to be that, dude, if you somewhat new business, and worked your ass off, you could go out there and create a very successful real estate business, right? That's no longer the case. Right? I mean, that's just going to get you an okay average career. If you somewhat know business or even decent at business and you work your ass off, that's just good enough anymore. That's just good. That's not even great, not taking you exceptional, right? To become exceptional, go great, man. Like you've got to know strategy and take the time to master strategy. You've got to master marketing. You've got to know how to incorporate and utilize technology inside your business and leverage technology. You got to become brilliant at systems, right? So as well as become brilliant at business and time management and all of these different things. Like one of the biggest myths that, and I attach to this for a lot of years is, because I think as entrepreneurs, so much of our self-worth comes from our work ethic. Right. And we think that working harder and working more hours will equate to more success. And it's just not the case. Right. I mean, I work less today than I ever have, right. The more success I create, I find myself working less. And it's not because I have a goal of working less. I actually enjoy working. Right. But it's just, it's, you got to work. I guess if I were to break this down to a sentence, it's, you got to work extremely hard on your ability to work smart. Right. So you got to make sure that you're running hard, but running in the right direction. So you're like, oh, it's 90% effort, 10% information. No, dude, it's flipped around, right? It's 90% information, 10% work. Now, I'm not saying your time allocation will be that. But you gotta, I don't care how hard you work. It's like, I don't care how hard you're sprinting. If you're sprinting, east trying to chase the sunset, you're never going to see it. Right? Like the sun only sets in one direction, right? So you got to make sure that you are sprinting in the right direction and then sprint hard. Right. But then from there, it's like, well, how do you do all that, Josh? Like, well, man, it's, when I go home at night, go see my wife and my kids, hang out with them, spend some time with them. When they go to bed with my competition is what binge watching Netflix or doing whatever it is that they're doing, which that's what I want to do too. Right. But I make the conscious decision to go out there and deep dive into digital, online courses and that self-development to constantly be leveling up to gain the skill sets I need to gain to take my business to the next level. And it has to be constant. So you have to truly want it and know why you want it to push through all that pain and push through all that damn boredom, right? Because a lot of it is just boredom, dude. But the result is well worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Wow. Okay. So you pretty much knocked off all my questions, but you kind of did. Well, you spoke about, allocating your time wisely. And you spoke about also you need to be looking at technology. You need to be looking at marketing. You need to be looking at systems. So really at least be aware and improve your skill set in that regard so you can continue leveraging not only whatever's out there for the improvement of your personal life, if you will, but also for your business. That's how it's going to grow. So I'm curious, somebody that is achieving in so many different worlds. Again, the GSD mode podcast is killing it. Here on YouTube, absolutely dominating. Real estate. So there's a lot of places that you are excelling at. So I'm curious, you as an entrepreneur, how do you decide where you're going to allocate your time? How do you go about making that decision of, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that tomorrow, or I'm going to focus on this for this quarter? What does that decision-making process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you guys got to understand that every season that we're involved in, or every phase, whatever you want to call it, whatever stage your business is in, this is always transitioning and always changing, right? So like as far as like what activities you're actually doing. But what is really important, what I do and what I have found to really be effective is identify the three most important things that you need to be doing with the level that you're at. So let's just say you're an individual agent, right? And as an individual agent, I always tell agents like the first thing to do, let's just say you're brand new, right? Okay, well, I need to get my trackers updated, make sure that I'm tracking my numbers. Like I'm going to make sure I have my tracking system in place. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a CRM and I'm going to get to know the CRM inside and out, right? So, and the cool thing is that all this like takes like 2 weeks, right? All these things I'm going to share here, they don't take a long time to get these things in place, but okay, your tracking system's dialed in, you've got your CRM, like how to set it up, how to utilize it, how to work every element of it, right? So you somewhat master your CRM. Then from there, identify a winning listing and buyer consultation process and get to mastering that. Right. So, and don't go out there and wait for time to go out there and figure out how to create your own. Just go find somebody that's crushing it in your business, figure out what they're doing and just copy. It's R&D, rip off and duplicate. Right. It's like when people say, oh man, you're a good real estate, a good entrepreneur. It's like, man, I'm just a really good pirate. Right. I just find somebody that's kicking ass at the next level that I want to get to, that's doing a better job than I am. And I just copy their shit and incorporate it in my business. Right. So then we got your presentations dialed in. Then we have to have market mastery. right? So mastering your market would be, an hour a day of just studying the MLS. Every new active that just hit, every cancel withdrawn, expired, everything that went pending, everything that went sold, and really studying all the photos, study the tax records, get to know, what schools, what neighborhoods, what builder, price per square foot, right? And if you do that an hour a day after a full month, man, like you know your local market better than most real estate agents that have been doing this for 2 decades. Then I'd spend another hour a day driving one area of, like just pick a subdivision, a neighborhood. Okay, I'm just going to drive this, get to know all the parks, businesses surrounded with there, all the schools tied to that neighborhood, and preview 2 properties that are in the neighborhood while you're driving it. So you got 2 hours a day for 30 days of market mastery. Then the next step is to have your sphere of influence and past client process dialed in. Right. And I'm going to get all those 5 things dialed in before I even identify my lead generation methods. Right. So those are just the hardcore fundamentals. But let's just say once we have those 5 things dialed in, which you can have in a matter of a couple weeks, then from there, as a real estate agent, I'm going to understand that I call them the 3 vital signs of real estate. My 3 highest and best uses of my time at that phase of my business are going to be the activities that lead to me setting appointments. That's going to be your lead gen, lead follow-up, which I know most people talk about as 2 separate things, but you can't have one without the other. Yeah, right? Like, so it's all intertwined. So number 1 is your activities that lead to you setting appointments. Number 2 is your appointment conductions. Number 3 is contract negotiations. So I'm going to make sure that 80% of my time is every single day is allocated to those 3 activities, right? And then from there, the other 20% is going to be divvied up between client nurture, paperwork, building out my systems, right? All of that stuff. So at every phase, you have to identify, okay, what is the highest and best use of my time? Right? How you identify highest and best uses, like if you were to break down your highest, let's just say, hour activities or per minute activities, right? It's like we all do things that could be worth $1,000 an hour inside our business, right? So what are those highest dollar producing activities for you with where you're at? So and then as you start building a team, right? There was a time where it was those same 3 things, but instead of both buyers and sellers, it was with agent recruiting, right? Now to me, it's different at the phase that I'm at because I have recruiters. I've got buyer agents and teammates working with our buyer and seller clients, recruiters recruiting. I've got a leadership team that runs all the operations. But I'm always also looking at, like, if you asked me today, or you said today, it's like, dude, you got the podcast and your YouTube channel, is massive. Doing all these things. I'm looking, it's always, what is the one thing I can do that is the best domino, I guess, to tip that tips over everything else, right? So like for me today, it's content creation. So it starts with the podcast, right? But then we repurpose it. And this is where strategy comes in. Right. So we'll do any kind of content creation, put it out on YouTube. Then we utilize that, repurpose it for all of our social media, right? Repurpose it into blogs and opt-ins, repurpose. So it looks like I'm doing all of these different things, but this one thing leads to all these other things. It just trickles down, right? So but you got to, and you might be like, dude, that makes no sense to me right now. Not you, Jaime, but the audience listening. And it doesn't need to make sense of where I'm at to you right now. What needs to make sense is identifying the 3 things for the role that you're in and just being obsessed with those 3 things. And then when you get to the next role, identify them. And how do I identify them? I find people that are at the next level of that I'm trying to achieve, and the highest achievers that are doing that. And what are their 3 things, right? So, because sometimes we get to the next level, like you have no idea what the hell to do. Right? Well, the cool thing is we're not Elon Musk trying to revolutionize interstellar space travel. Like what we do on a day-to-day basis for most entrepreneurs, man, it's been done before. Other people are doing it or have done it, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel and figure any of this out. We just have to identify what others that have created massive success have done and or are doing, and just operate in that same manner.
Whew. Joshua, man, you're making this way too easy for me. I just need to sit back and take notes, which I'm doing. So that is, I like how you presented it in different phases because it's not a catch-all. It's all right, well, this is where you're at in business right now, and this is what you particularly can do to get to that next level. And then the other individual, the other team, or the other company, this is where you're at right now. Don't worry about this other completely different model or completely different what's going on. I want you to focus on what you can act on today and then get to that next level. That's awesome. That is golden. As far as, well, I want to skip this question, but I'm not, because I just spoke about the boogeyman and saying, don't focus on the boogeyman. However, what is, and super loaded question, by the way, what is the biggest threat to the agent right now?
The biggest threat to the agent is the agent themselves. And I'm stealing that from NAR's danger report that was released, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. But that hands down is the biggest threat, right? I mean, so many agents are freaked out about technology, getting the real estate agent replaced. And look, none of us have a crystal ball. So worry does us no good, right? Of what potentially could happen. Now, I don't perceive any of that happening. We compare all these other industries, but the reality is real estate is so hyper local when it comes to local real estate laws. I mean, it would really take, the federal government taking over and dictating a blanket law for the whole entire country, for things to be more automated and to eliminate the real estate agent altogether. So, and who knows what it's all going to look at like, but again, I don't ever concern myself with that bullshit, because I'm just mentally masturbating and it's not doing me any good, when I have those thoughts. Right. So, so what I mean then by the biggest threat to the real estate agent is the real estate agent themselves, right? Is you are going to 100% determine your own success in this industry. You are going to 100% determine if you're going to go out there and kick massive fucking ass, or if you are going to fail, become extinct, right? Whatever. I mean, it's all of it lands on you, right? So if you are not where you want to be, it's not your broker's fault. It's not your local market's fault. It's not the economy's fault. It's not Zillow or all these buyers' fault, these technology companies, right? It's just on you, right? Like you just, so look at your own self as your own economy. And this is what I do. Like, how do I make myself recession or depression proof, right? How do I become so valuable to the marketplace where regardless of what happens, I can still go out there and crush it, right? There might become a lot of other real estate agents going extinct, but that has nothing to do with me, right? I'm going to go out there and still crush it. So just look at yourself as your own economy and understand that your fate is in your own hands. It's up to you.
Awesome. Well, speaking to it's up to you, and speaking up, your own economy, I'm very curious to get your blueprint. So this is my favorite question by far. If you were to start all over again today, knowing what you know now, what does your next 7 days look like?
Yeah. So let's just say, lost everything, and even take it a step further. Let's just say I moved to a totally different market, starting over as an individual agent, right? And just so I don't have to, repeat those 5 things I just talked about, right? That would be my first 7 days. Okay. Yeah, right. Would be probably first 30 days. You got to slow down in order to go fast. But let's just say the 7 days after I've got those 5 things dialed in that we talked about before, which is tracking CRM, my listing buyer presentation, market knowledge, and then my sphere of influence past client plan dialed in, right? Those are the 5 things I'm talking about. So 7 days after I've got those dialed in, I'm going to spend time, that 7 days, I'm going to spend that 7 days identifying my ideal client, right? So my ideal client is who I connect with the best, who I resonate with the best, who I enjoy working with the best, that appreciates me the most, that leads to the most opportunities. I'm very, very clear on my ideal client. So today in my real estate business, my ideal client, as far as buyer and sellers, are move-up buyers. So these are people that already own a home. 28 to 42-year-old married couples with young kids living at home that are buying in the suburbs. They're buying in my market. Their average price point is $250 to $350. And single family attached homes, right? Like, so I'm very, very clear on where they live, who they are. So then, because once I know my ideal client, Then from there, based on that area, identify, okay, where are their eyeballs? Yeah, right. Which dictates where I show up with my marketing, right? So I'd identify my ideal client, and then I would identify from there my 2 lead generation methods that I would execute and implement on. And I'd go to work at those things. Again, allocating 80% of my day and time at setting appointments, appointment conductions, and negotiating contracts. 20% for all of the other essential non-money making activities with that. And I just go chips on. So I spend the next 7 days identifying, getting very clear on that. So then I have the complete strategy to go out there and crush it and sell 100 homes in my first year, or whatever that next year would look like.
Joshua, that is a complete strategy. Thank you so much. I need to clear out my calendar tomorrow because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That is perfect, my friend. Hey, where can the audience connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, the best place, you guys, is to go to gsdmode.com, which is kind of the hub for my podcast. Stands for Get Shit Done Mode. Yeah, right. gsdmode.com with tons of free content on there. I do a weekly in-depth real estate tip, usually a 20, 30-minute whiteboard video, do a weekly leveling up episode, which is all about mindset, do a ton of podcast interviews like this. So just a lot of free content on there. I've got 41 weeks of free coaching on there available, which is 41 weekly in-depth strategy emails. And with all of that, I have a very strict no selling policy. So it's none of that, you don't have to worry about being spammed or any of that. So it's just a hub for a ton of free content that can help you grow your business. So I check out gsdmode.com.
Awesome. We'll be sure to link that down below. Joshua, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you being on Echo Interviews.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you so much for having me.